Alright, so unless you've been living under a rock, you've seen by now the Trump deportation raids have begun. It is getting wild out here. I just want to say, if you are an illegal immigrant watching this video, if you want to kick it at my place, it's going to be 20 bucks a day, and I'm going to need you on chef duty permanently. I also have a rule that if I beat you in Smash Ultimate, you got to call up your loved ones back home and say you got captured. But jokes aside, mass deportation was something that Trump campaigned on, so I'm not surprised this is happening. It's kind of what he said he was going to do. But either way, it's obviously a very divisive issue. I mean, if you ask me, it's pretty simple. If you came here illegally, you should not be here. I do think the top priority, though, should be like violent criminals and stuff. And that shouldn't be controversial at all. I mean, if you think that violent criminals that came here illegally should not get the boot, maybe both of you should get the boot, honestly. Like, go accompany him on his flight back. Anyway, though, I had seen this video posted by Channel 5 where a bunch of people were protesting these mass deportations. More specifically, a communist organization called RevCom had organized a protest against it. I can never be a communist because I can't even share my fries, let alone the means of production. I went into this trying to hear them out on what they were saying, but immediately realized that most of what they were saying was completely ridiculous. I think the ridiculousness of their cause is a pretty good explainer for why no one's part of their group. The reality is they could get so much more done by actually just supporting the mainstream Democratic Party instead of being a fringe, but they're so unwilling to compromise on like most of their beliefs that it leaves them to just be this kind of out there group with no members and no accomplishments. But yeah, let's take a look at some of these protests.
We're in the soon-to-be fascist America, and we're here to say hell no to Trump, to fascism, and to the whole damn system of capitalism, imperialism, which gave birth to this nightmare.
The system that you have such a problem with to the point that you're protesting its existence because it brought you Trump also brought you all the other presidents that caused you not to do this. It's very interesting for me to see the people that all of a sudden have a problem with the vague idea of the system now that it's produced an outcome that they find unfavorable.
This country has fucked up the rest of the world and destroyed people's homelands and forced millions of people from the Congo.
The Congo? Really? Yeah, blaming the US for everything conveniently ignores the fact that places like the Congo have been looted and screwed over by corruption and horrible leaders who would rather pocket billions of dollars than actually fix their countries. So maybe point the finger on the people running the show instead of blaming everything on the US. It's also crazy to me to have a protest about all this stuff, which has been the case for decades, only after Trump gets reelected. US imperialism kind of has nothing to do with the fact that there are illegal alien criminals roaming the streets right now that need to be deported. And if you want to convince yourself that somehow it does, take a deep breath and realize that 0% of voters actually care when they hear that illegal immigrants are committing crime in America. And even if undocumented immigrants commit crimes at a lower rate, the total number of crimes still increases with population growth. So more people equals more crimes, and when those people are here illegally, which is a crime in itself, then what are we doing here? Because you're not starting at zero, you're compounding crime when you start with an illegal immigrant. And it's not sensationalism, like the obvious reaction from a person who's an American when they see someone who broke the rules to get here, usually by some means of human smuggling, which I'm not even going to get into that can of worms, but the reality is they got here illegally and they're not on their best behavior. Nobody actually thinks about or cares about imperialism when referring to this stuff. Yeah, you know, fentanyl deaths have increased like tenfold over the past 5 or 10 years, but we deserve this thanks to imperialism, because when someone ODs in a Walmart bathroom, it's definitely because the US invaded Iraq 20 years ago. It makes total sense. And yeah, the fentanyl stuff has less to do with illegal immigrants themselves and more to do with, you know, border vulnerabilities and weaknesses in the broken immigration system. But the overall brokenness of the system and the negative outputs that it causes on Americans is going to cause people to vote on whatever is going to stop that from happening.
To Latin America to flee their homelands and seek refuge in places like the US, and then they turn around and call them criminals and demonize immigrants.
They're coming in from prisons, they're coming in from jails. These aren't people, these are animals.
If you listen to Trump, why is healthcare messed up? Immigrants. Why is there debt? Because of immigrants. Why do the police kill black people? Because of immigrants. Fentanyl crisis. Why is that? Because of immigrants. Everything. They're the scapegoats.
I mean, to be completely fair, I'm sure they get scapegoated for some stuff, but like when you bring up fentanyl, it is completely fair to say that the vulnerabilities in the immigration system are what allow for both human smuggling and fentanyl smuggling. And if you want to talk about healthcare, this is the most obvious one. Like, illegal immigrants do not have health insurance, so they go to the hospital whenever they get a paper cut, and hospitals are legally to provide emergency services under US law, so of course the costs are increased for hospitals and taxpayers. And look, healthcare is already a very broken system in the United States. I think this is why you see so many people who are supporting Luigi Mangione when he took out that CEO. But the reality is, when immigration is done properly, you don't have to have people going to the hospital for everything and throwing the system all out of whack.
They're sort of the spearhead for a whole fascist onslaught against people who are already most vulnerable and oppressed under this system.
What fascist onslaught are you talking about? Like just deporting illegal immigrants? This is the problem. Like when people refer to stuff like this as fascist, all they're doing is reminding people who voted for Trump to ignore every single person who accuses him of being a fascist.
Fascism, capitalism, imperialism.
The U.S. enacting coups all over the world, backing reactionary governments, environmental destruction, people being forced out of their country because their environment is no longer livable.
Donald Trump's mass deportations are underway.
Como estamos viendo, el primer convoy de mexicanos deportados están llegando a Ciudad Juárez.
Bien, hasta ahorita tengo salud, pero de mi familia no he sabido nada.
In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America.
Okay, you don't want a fascist America, but your group, your counteroffer is communism? Wow, what an upgrade. That's like saying, oh, sorry bro, I don't want to go to McDonald's, it's too unhealthy. But we can hit up Burger King though. It makes no sense. They're ranting about authoritarianism while pushing a system that's historically done the exact same thing, just with worse food and longer lines. I genuinely do not believe these people have an actual solution for anything. Vaguely opposing fascism and vaguely opposing deportation of illegal immigrants does not actually further the causes that help people in this country. And if it did, you'd have like 5 million members. You'd have like 60 million members or whatever. These people hate being called liberals because they think it brings them farther from the causes they actually believe in, but they should take it as a compliment because at least liberals actually get elected.
That's why we need revolution. We need a whole different system.
A revolution is when millions rise up and defeat, dismantle, disarm the violent forces of this system. Actually overthrowing this system, building a whole new society, and doing so without turning into the people you just overthrew.
Like, this is what I'm saying. At least the Democratic Party actually pushes laws that get passed and actually does things to help people. These legitimate lunatics think that they can overthrow the government, take over the entire system and the reins of power, and reinstall this new system that is just magically gonna work that they've brainstormed for like, I don't know, like 15 minutes. There is no practicality in any of the stuff that they're advocating. They're advocating for a revolution, which obviously takes violence to do, which you're just not gonna win that. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You're not gonna take over the government. So like, yeah, they can protest the anti-deportation stuff if they want and stand up for the values they believe in, but this whole notion of the eventual goal being to usurp power from those who have it right now is insane and will never happen, and makes me believe that it's kind of a LARP.
Заходить без стука некультурно. Ты идиот. Блядь, поспонсировать что ли нельзя? Ты идиот. Ну чё, поспонсировать нельзя? Идиот.
What would be, I guess, the ideal society to you?
One, a world without borders, where people aren't considered illegal, and one where other people are actually considered as full human beings.
We're all illegals. If this fascist regime calls you illegals, we're all illegals. So that's why we're here, is to go right to where people live and where they're most scared.
To do what? What's the goal? Just to like meet them, shake their hands? Like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, we know that you're like horribly oppressed and you're probably gonna get deported. We just wanted to come and say, I'm with RevCom, you know, communist organization group, and can we like maybe get a picture of us with you for our website to show the people that we're like cool? She also says that we're all illegals, which is probably some sort of spin on the nobody's illegal on stolen land talking point. Unfortunately, history doesn't erase law just because there's like the idea of stolen land based on historical injustices and stuff. You kind of can't just ignore the current law and system entirely. It's also just a bad argument, you know, it's like saying property theft centuries ago invalidates someone owning a house today. But let's even say that these people are right, these geniuses, these thinkers of our modern day, they're onto something. Yes, US is stolen land. Okay, now what? This is just a slogan, it's not actual policy, which I think is the majority of what people are doing. You know, they just want to throw around slogans, they want to just say imperialism, capitalism, fascism, just like keyword spamming, buzzword spamming. Their only real solution is like a revolution, which isn't a solution. And even if it was, these people would have no idea how to carry it out. It is literally just a nothing burger.
This is why we wanted to come here to call on them to say, New Year, no fear.
A new year, no fear. Nuevo año sin miedo. Todos somos ilegales. Well, now's the time to stand up, not cowering in fear,
not hiding in the shadows like Trump is telling people to do, but coming out and refusing to accept a fascist America.
You're actually advocating for the exact thing Trump wants. Like, Trump wants to round up as many illegal immigrants as he can and deport them. And you're saying they shouldn't hide in the shadows. Like, that actually makes, like, ICE's job 1,000,000,000% easier. You gotta imagine if they're hiding in the shadows and, you know, running away from all the ICE members, like, that's gonna make things harder for rounding them up. It'd be the funniest thing if that these guys went to actually find the illegal immigrants and like convinced them to march alongside them and literally gave ICE the freest deportations possible. You know what? Actually, I hope ICE doesn't deport any of them. I hope that they all get to march free, and I hope that this is kind of like a bat signal to all the other people who want to illegally immigrate to America to come on in. Because halfway through this recording, I had an epiphany. Okay, my mind has changed. I think we should have as many illegal immigrants as we possibly can hold. I kind of like the feeling of unrest and uncertainty in this country, and I think it generally makes us more anxious, and when we're crippling with this anxiety and nervousness, it's kind of the only time we ever feel alive in this generation of blue light rot that we live in currently. Maybe we need a lot of bit of illegal immigration to offset the degeneration of TikTok scrolling in the late nights, Instagram reel sharing as a replacement of communication, YouTube shorts scrolling in between lunch and dinner. I like it, man. Everybody talks about the dopamine detox, and I think the way we're really gonna get that and have our dopamine replenished and our adrenaline spiking is when nobody knows who the fuck is coming in and out of our country, what kind of drugs and weapons they're bringing. Who knows? Who cares? It's gonna be fun. How do I join this group? This seems awesome. I think my main concern slash thing I'm thinking about the most is how does the number of illegal immigrants in America relate to my odds of getting a high-paying gambling sponsorship? Because if there's a lot of illegal aliens and that somehow increases the odds of me getting a fucking email from stake.com saying they'll juice me for $5 mil a month for spinning some slots, then I would say I think Venezuela, Colombia, every single place that has immigrants that could come here, send them all here and send them here now. I'll pay for their flights here. Mid-editing, I just looked into it, and these people get paid so much money. I mean, I know why, because gambling, you know, people make a lot of money running these casinos. But bro, if you make slots and you watch my videos or you know someone who makes slots, bro, tell them to email me.
Immigration and customs enforcement operations reportedly underway in jurisdictions all across the nation.
For somebody not from LA, how would you explain what MacArthur Park symbolizes?
Yeah, MacArthur Park is like the absolute death of like urban Los Angeles.
Yeah, it looks like a scene from Tucker Carlson's Nightmares.
Yeah, it's drugs, gangs, homelessness. I'm pretty sure there was hella dead bodies in the fucking lake.
A body was found in MacArthur Park Lake.
And that's the thing, right? If there's no dead bodies in these lakes that are inside of these cities that are torn with crime and poverty, then who's gonna keep the news anchors employed? You know, these people need stuff to report on, you know? Anyway, jokes aside, I want to get to the part of the video where these people talk more about what they believe and what they do, because that's the reason this video is even being made. We're gonna go see how the sausage is made, go see some cast of characters, and hey man, let's just go see.
I think there's a lot of people who they find every kind of way they can to try to sell their goods on the street, and they face all kinds of harassment as well. But there's a hyper-consumerism and obsession that people have with getting more for yourself, because there's a very meaningless existence in this country of just get more for yourself, consume more, and it's also promoted in the culture everywhere. It's why some of the more famous artists are kind of drawn to the Trump fascism, is because of that whole hustler, get mine, fuck everybody else shit is very in sync with this Trump MAGA fascism. So look, this is a system that is very unlike any other capitalist country that has ever existed. This country lives like a big, fat, bloated parasite off of the people of the world.
I mean, I actually agree with like the first half of what he said about how materialism and consumerism not only have like control over our culture, but under the pursuit of materialism and consumerism, you will ultimately be left completely empty and numb. I think more specifically, being on this hamster wheel of success is something that is maybe part of human nature, but is definitely enhanced by the culture. Like, I do think naturally as you acquire success and wealth, your expectations scale. So if you thought that making $1 million was going to make you happy, and then you make the $1 million, it'll be happy for a bit, but then you'll be like, okay, how do I get 10 mil? How do I get 100 million? But specifically, people who may have in previous generations been content with the lifestyle they live, being a simple life, have been inundated with culture and just stuff that is telling them to infinitely pursue more in terms of wealth and material. Now, the second part of what he's saying, I completely disagree with. I don't think the rappers that support Trump support fascism. I also saw in this election cycle, it was kind of the opposite. Like, a lot of the biggest artists and celebrities had kind of been out there supporting Kamala. Like, we saw the Avengers had voted for her, and I'm sure my editors can put up some more examples, but maybe Kanye proves his point. But in general, I just don't know if he's right on this.
Okay, and making a revolution in this country in a new world would not only be good for people who are suffering now here, but it would be a big weight lifted off of the backs of people all over the world.
It's important to note that this march was organized by the New Revolutionary Communist Party, aka the Revcoms, a small political party founded in 1975 with numbers in the thousands.
My name is Annie Day. I'm with the Revcoms, the Revolutionary Communists, the Revcom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity.
Their primary cause in organizing the rally was to protest deportations by ICE, something they see as an extension of capitalism itself.
We're actually concerned with the masses of oppressed honest people, the people who are hungry for a different kind of world, the decent people who, even if they don't suffer from oppression, want to see an end to it. And that's who has to get mobilized. And we think we're in a rare time where that actual revolution is not just more urgent, but more possible.
I mean, yeah, Telegram really changed everything, right? Wasn't Antifa using Telegram to link up for some sort of protest or riot? It's never been easier to do anything radical or anything ever. Like, the internet made the barrier of entry for psychopaths to do crazy shit basically zero. But I guess that's the price you pay for, like, the greatest invention of all time. You know, the internet is pretty cool.
Their operational plan is to overthrow the U.S. government and do away with capitalism, while simultaneously granting sovereignty to all U.S. territories.
Puerto Rico, independent day one. Other countries that this country has dominated, independent day one. We might have to form another nation within the borders of what had been the United States in order to give national sovereignty to oppressed peoples. Because, like, again, people have risen up repeatedly for liberation, even in Puerto Rico and everywhere. And they've had their heads cut off every time they lifted up, including directly by the U.S.
If you want some more bright ideas from this guy, go watch the rest of the video. I'll have it linked down below. But at this point in time, I'm just tapping. So if you guys enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're new. Follow my social medias. Links are all down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.